Hi everyone, welcome to Heavenly Harvest Homestead. My name's Ken, and tonight I'm making alligator sauce piquant. So let's roll. Alright, so first part of making this dish is called making the Trinity. It's onions, celery, and green bell pepper. I mixed a little bit of red bell pepper in this one too. You can use regular onions. I use a little bit of both. I use a little bit of white onion and a little bit of green onion in this. I use a whole, a whole bunch of celery. And this one I had 2 medium-sized bell peppers that I chopped up. So that's about all you need for as far as vegetables goes. And then I'll be showing you what else goes in there. So next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a roux. So let me show you that, because a lot of people don't know how to make a roux. So I'm gonna make a roux and then I'll show you that. So if you don't know what a roux is, let me fix this camera. I can't even hardly see myself. There we go. All right. If you don't know what a roux is the base of all Cajun soups and dishes. What it is, it's oil and flour in equal parts, and you mix it together under a low heat and until it turns brown, about the color of a probably peanut butter for this particular dish. For some heavier soups or gumbos, get a little bit darker, or if you're making something with seafood, you may want to make it a little bit not quite as dark. So it's definitely a learned tradition, and sometimes you mess it up, sometimes you don't, but when you get it right, it's perfect. So let me show you how to do it. Okay, the 2 main ingredients for this is what I use. I use lard. Some people use oil, vegetable oil, but I use lard because I feel like it's got a better flavor, and some all-purpose flour. All right, so we also need a Dutch oven or a 5-quart pot, because you don't want to. Well, sometimes people make it in a skillet and then they transfer it to the pot, but I just make it all in the same thing, save cleaning dishes. All right, so first thing, take a tablespoon of lard. All right, I'm gonna set my eye to about 4. So I don't want to scorch it, because the worst thing when you scorch it, it's going to turn black and it tastes nasty, and then you got to start all over again. All right, so the key to making a roux is not the ingredients, it's stirring it. All right, I'm going to put 2 tablespoons because this dish takes about 2 tablespoons worth of roux. So I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of lard inside. And I'm going to open up my flour and I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of flour in there. But I got to wait till the lard melts. So you need to, or if you're just using oil, you want the oil to heat up. So when you drop your flour in, it should kind of act like it's frying a little bit. So what we're doing here is we're cooking the flour. So it's turning it into a brown base, and that's what we're going to do. So let me get this oil warmed up, and then I'll put this back on and show you how to mix it up. Okay, so what I did, I got a 1/4 cup of whole all-purpose flour, and my oil is melted now. So what I do is I just add a little bit at a time. I'm not going to dump the whole thing in here because I don't want it to lump up. I'm just going to add a little bit at a time. Then you need to get a whisk. Get my whisk over here. I forgot to get my whisk out. right, some people use a spoon. I like to use a whisk because the whisk keeps the oil in the flour moving so it doesn't lump up. And what I'm trying to do is just get a little bit of this oil mixed in with the flour so that it will start to brown. Now, let me show you. Let me see if I can put the camera on this so you can see what's happening inside. See how it's bubbling up? All right, so that's what you're looking for, is a little bit of bubbling. Now, what I'm going to do, I got to add a little more flour, trying to make this a little bit thicker. And then I'll keep on stirring, because you don't want to stop stirring because it will burn on the bottom. Like I said, what you should wind up with is something that looks sort of like peanut butter. I'll put the rest of the flour in there. That should be all I need. And I'm just going to stir all the flour in, and I'm going to start cooking this flour. All right, and apologize if this is stirring sounds weird. Okay, so now that I've got it incorporated a little bit, I'm going to turn my heat up to a 6. Now, like I told you guys before, I got an electric stove. If you're using fire, do not turn it up too high because you will scorch this flour almost instantaneously. So, one thing that, cooking with gas stoves is an art. And anybody who does it, I got major respect for, because I've tried to do it before and I always seem to make things too overdone. I'm going to just let it sit there for a minute. I just want to let it brown just a little bit, and then I'll stir it in. Some people say, well, don't stop stirring, because when you stop stirring, it clots up on the bottom. But I like to let it sit there just a minute because it helps brown it on the bottom. I feel like if you keep on moving it around, it never has time to brown. So that's just my way of doing it. I know some people are going to go like, oh, you need to stir your roux all the time, but okay, well, I've been making roux for quite a while now, and my way works just fine. You may have a better way, and I'm not going to discourage you from trying different ways, but this is the way I do it, and it's just the way it works. Now, it's going to start smoking a little bit. If you've got a kitchen with a fan, turn the fan on. I've got a vent fan, but I'm not going to turn it on because it'll drown out every single bit of the sound. So I'll just deal with it because it's not that bad. Actually, it's quite a pleasant smell. One of my favorite things to smell roux, because when it's made right, it smells absolutely awesome. Now, what we're going to do with this roux after I get this done is I'm going to put my vegetables in here, and we're going to saute our vegetables in this roux and incorporate the vegetable essence with our roux. Alright, so just about done, looks like. And I'll pick this up. I'm not going to lean the camera over. I'm going to pick this up so you can see what I'm talking about when I say about the consistency of peanut butter. See that? Alright. So that's perfect. So now I'm going to put my vegetables in. Now I've got to get that roux off the bottom because if I don't, it's going to burn. So I've got to get this stirred into my vegetables. Because you can still burn the roux. So I've got to stir it in here. Getting the wetness from the vegetables to incorporate in it so it'll pick it up off the bottom and it won't stick. Alright, now I'm going to turn my eye back down to a 4 and so I can saute these vegetables. Alright, so as soon as I get these softened up, I'll put this back on and show you what the next step is. Okay, so while we're waiting on the vegetables to soften up, I got to get this meat ready. Alright, so this is alligator tail meat. Still a little bit unthawed. What you want to do is cut this up into about 1-inch chunks. So you get a decent bite, but not too small because you pour the water off here. Now, if you're wanting to get some of this meat, we were very fortunate. I was very surprised. I found this at our local Walmart, which really surprised me. It's not like it's not a common dish for North Carolina, so it's kind of was very surprised. But normally, if you go to a website called Cajun Grocer, you can find a lot of these types of exotic meats, alligator and whatnot. This is alligator tail meat, and it's very, very tender if cooked correctly. And just like anything else, if you overcook it, it just turns hard as a rock. And what I'm going to do after I get this cut up, I'm going to get a brown skillet. And I'm just going to brown this lightly and season it with some salt and pepper, just to kind of get it started. Oh, didn't get that one all the way. Cut half there. There we go. Oh. Cutting board trying to run away on me. And this is 1 pound of tail meat. Oop, didn't come it. I'm jumping off the page here. That's all you need is 1 pound. That'd be plenty for this particular recipe. I usually make this for just me and Beth. It usually makes enough for our dinner, and then also enough for us to have for lunch the next day. So I guess if you're just feeding for one night, that'll be 4 people. So that's what this recipe usually makes. It's for 4 servings. If you need to make a little more, just double the recipe, and I'll put the recipe in the description, so you can make it yourself if you'd like. This is one of my my own recipes. I have used other people's recipes before and found what I like and what I don't like, and I've kind of tailored it to my own recipe, things that I particularly enjoy. But pretty much everybody makes it very similar to the same way, so it's not like there's a huge variation. Everybody puts their own little spin on it, so that's basically what I do. I take my own little spin on the sauce piquant, and it's just the way we like to eat it. And I've had it other ways too, like I said, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just kind of how I like to do it. So now that I got this all squared up, let me flip it back over to the stove, and I'll show you how we brown this up. Alright, so I've got a seasoned skillet here. I'm just going to lay these in here. Just want to brown them a little bit. I don't want to overcook them. I'm just going to lay it all in here, stir it around a little bit, get it a little bit textured. Now I'm going to put it in the mixture with the vegetables and let the vegetables season it up a little bit more. Take some of this juice and pour it in here. Alright, now for seasoning, I'm going to wipe my hand off a bit here. When you're cooking stuff like this, always keep you a good clean towel around, because invariably your hands get a little bit messy and you need to have something to wipe them off. Alright, I'm going to use some sea salt. And some cracked pepper. I was about probably a teaspoon of each of those. You can see the meat starting to take a little bit of color on. Let me put a light on here. So, oh, I forgot my bulb burned out. I'm an electrician I am, letting my bulbs burn out and not getting them fixed here. Now you get this alligator tail in two different ways. You can get it like I have, where it's not, where it's just the tail, and you can also get it breaded if you want to make like alligator nuggets. Because alligator nuggets are really good. Let me cut this piece up. That's a little bit big here. Stir it over here. Sorry for blocking me up. Okay, I'm starting to speak to me. Now all you want to do is take these vegetables to where the onions and the celery, well, the onions get soft and the celery starts to soften up too. Turn that back up to a 6. Alright, so got them a little bit brown. I don't want them to get really cooked because they're going to cook inside this. So let me turn the eye off, move this over, pour this into the vegetables. Get this stirred in. Man. Smelling good already. All right, so turn this around here. There we go. All right, so here's my pot with my vegetables and my alligator. Now I'm gonna get the tomatoes, and we're gonna add a can of Rotel. We're gonna add a 20-ounce can of diced tomatoes. I was going to use my own tomatoes, but I didn't even think about it, and I froze them last night, so I had to buy a can. So if you were using this with fresh tomatoes, you'd use 6 Roma tomatoes. Actually, no, I'm sorry. 8 Roma tomatoes. That would make enough tomatoes to do this, and a can of Rotel, because we need the Rotel. Now, the particular Rotel I use is normally the mild, but when I was at the store earlier, I noticed that Rotel has had a fire roasted one, so I'm going to use that. So let me get these opened up, put them in there, and then I'll get back with you. Okay, so here's my tomatoes. Got one 28 ounce can of diced tomatoes. I put it in juice and all. You don't need to drain the juice off. One can of Rotel tomatoes. Now, if you don't want to use Rotel, you could make your own Rotel. All it is just some finely diced tomatoes with some green chilies in it. And for my own special thing, what I do is I use a small can of mushrooms as well. Some people put mushrooms in them, some people don't. It's one thing I had started doing a couple years ago, and absolutely love putting mushrooms. I love mushrooms. So I just need a small can. I don't need a lot. This is this particular one is a Georgito's Portobello. I've used fresh mushrooms before as well. It's particularly your preference. Whatever you prefer, use that. I go by, my preference is always what's easiest at the time, because I didn't, like I said, this was a last minute thing. We were especially going to have, thought we were going to have chicken, but I offered last night to make this. So, all right, also I'm going to put a small 8 ounce can of tomato paste in here too to help thicken this up. Now notice I opened both ends of this up. This is a little trick I learned in order to get all of this out, because invariably you try to dig around in there, and if you cut the top and the bottom off, it makes it a whole lot easier to get the stuff out without having to add more water to your recipe than what you originally wanted to. So there's that. All right, we'll stir that in. That all stirred in. Okay, so now I'm going to let this set for a minute, let it get up to temperature, and then I'm going to add my final spices, which is going to be thyme, some onion powder, some garlic cloves, and some bay leaves. Like I said, I'll put this recipe in the comments so you can make it if you'd like. So let me let this get warmed up a little bit, and then I'll get back with you when I put the spices in. Alright, so here we go. Got some 4 cloves of garlic, and 2 teaspoons of thyme, fresh thyme. I'm going to add it's looking already. I'm going to add 2 bay leaves. I'm going to add 2 small dashes of cayenne pepper. The reason why I only do 2 is because Beth does not like this too spicy. And And I can always add some extra spice later on. Alright, so let me stir that in. All this in here. And a little bit of Worcestershire sauce also, if I have any. That's what I thought. I don't think I have any Worcestershire sauce. That's one of the ingredients that I thought I had. Oh, gone it. Let me see if I got any fridge here. Alright, let me pause this a minute. Let me see if I can find some Worcestershire sauce, and I'll be right back. Alright, crisis averted. I forgot I had taken Worcestershire sauce out of here because last time when I did it with it, Beth didn't like it. So, I see now, I had to go back and look at my recipe and I scratched it off. Okay, so the last thing is I just need to let it simmer and meld in. Here. Alright, this needs to cook for approximately 2 hours. So it's been going for about 30 minutes now, so it needs to go for about another hour and a half. So I'm going to cover it, let it simmer, let that alligator break down a little bit, get all the nice juices in there. But let me show you what it looks like. This is what it's yummy. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Alright, and what we do is we serve this over a bed of rice. If you don't like rice, I don't know what to tell you. Because all Louisiana dishes eat with rice. In fact, that's probably a staple. Some people use potatoes. Louisiana people, Cajuns, we use rice. Rice is the base for all of our sauce type dishes. And that's what this is. It's called Alligator Sauce Piquant. Means it's a tomato sauce with alligator. So let me get this cooking up here, and I'll get back with you when we get ready to take it off so you can see what it looks like. Alright, it's all done. Let me show you the finished product. Delicious. And it smells good. It's very easy to make. As long as you can make the roux, everything else is just pretty simple. So I'm going to plate it up. I'll show you what it looks like plated up. We're going to have some pickles that Beth made earlier this year with it. And I'll be back with you in just a bit. I'm going to plate it up. Alright, there it is, plated up. Looks yum. Can't wait to taste it.
Smells delicious.
Alright, so if you want to make this, I'm going to put the recipe in the comments. Alright, thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe and ring that notification bell so you can see when we put new videos up. And until then, remember, God is good all the time, and all the time, God is good. Love you. Have a good evening.